The most protein-dense food on Earth isn't steak, it's not even an animal. It's a plant so small, 100 fit on your fingernail. For centuries, ancient farmers, biblical figures, modern scientists all pointed to the same truth. Plants out-protein meat, not come close, beat it. Today, 10 plants with more protein than meat, gram for gram, some nearly double ground beef. Soybeans alone deliver close to double beef's protein. That's not even the most impressive one here. At 6, a plant most people have never heard of, more protein per gram than soybeans, one of the only plant-based sources of vitamin B12. And one, not a bean, not a nut, not a grain. Scientists are studying it as the answer to the world's coming protein crisis. Cup for cup, lentils rival chicken. One cooked cup, 198 grams, delivers 17 grams of protein, over 15 grams of fiber, more than 6 milligrams of iron, beating what most people get from a comparable serving of steak. And almost no fat, less than a gram next to double-digit protein. Ground beef can't touch that ratio. Here's what most videos skip: lentils aren't just protein-dense, they're nutrient-complete. That same cup packs over 700 milligrams of potassium plus folate and phosphorus, the kind of micronutrient stack you'd expect from leafy greens, not a legume you boil in 20 minutes. 1 cup, 230 calories, nearly 18 grams of usable protein for barely more than the calorie cost of a slice of bread. This isn't new. Lentils are one of the oldest cultivated crops on Earth, domesticated in the Near East thousands of years before recorded history. A staple ration for armies and laborers from Egypt to Rome, not because it was trendy but because it worked. No refrigeration, no slaughter, just a dried seed that rehydrates into a full meal. Chicken breast does edge out lentils by weight, but it comes with zero fiber and a much higher price tag per gram of protein. Lentils satiate you twice, protein fills you up, fiber makes it last. That's why researchers keep circling back to legumes for long-term satiety and blood sugar control. Lentils run about 25% protein by dry weight, rare for a plant carrying that much fiber in the same bite. There's a cost story too. A pound of dried lentils costs a fraction of a pound of ground beef and expands dramatically once cooked. Cost per gram of protein isn't just competitive with meat, it's often several times cheaper. One gap: lentils run short on methionine, one of 9 essential amino acids. Pair them with rice and that gap disappears, a full amino acid profile that rivals meat on paper. Ancient diets figured this out by accident, pairing lentils with grains long before anyone had a word for complementary protein. 3,000 years before macros was a word, lentils were already doing the job. 9. Chickpeas. The base of hummus is one of the most complete plant proteins on the planet. 1 cooked cup delivers 14.5 grams of protein, a solid way to eat more protein without eating more meat. That's a USDA number, and it comes with something meat can't offer at any quantity: 12.5 grams of fiber per cup. Aids digestion, feeds your gut microbiome, keeps you full longer. A ribeye has never once done that. Put that fiber in perspective: 1 cup covers roughly 49% of your daily fiber needs. In a single sitting. Pair that with the protein and chickpeas do double duty, building tissue, regulating blood sugar and digestion in the same bite. The micronutrients don't stop there. That same cup carries 71% of your daily folate and 26% of your daily iron, numbers that put chickpeas in the same conversation as leafy greens, not just protein per gram. This isn't new either. Domesticated chickpeas trace back roughly 7,500 years across the Fertile Crescent, before written language existed to document why. Same job today, keeping people full, strong, running on steady energy. It's why hummus, falafel, and chana masala have survived across totally different cultures for thousands of years, no nutrition label required. One detail most comparisons skip: chickpeas are an incomplete protein, nearly all essential amino acids but low in methionine. Sounds like a weakness. In practice, it's a non-issue. Pair chickpeas with a whole grain, brown rice, whole wheat, pita, quinoa, and you get a complementary protein profile that matches animal protein. That's exactly why hummus and pita became a pairing. Why chana masala is almost always served over rice. Ancient cooks weren't thinking about amino acid chains. They just knew it made people feel stronger longer. Turns out the biochemistry backs them up. There's a cost angle too. Buying dried chickpeas in bulk is one of the cheapest ways to eat well. They absorb water and expand significantly when cooked, so the price per gram of protein undercuts almost every animal source by a wide margin. A pound of dried chickpeas produces multiple high-protein meals for a fraction of the cost of equivalent chicken or beef. One caveat: portion size matters more here than with meat because of the fiber load. If your gut isn't used to high fiber, start small and rinse canned beans to cut sodium. Small price to pay for a legume that's fed civilizations since before the pyramids and still holds up against a modern nutrition label. 8 hemp seeds. 3 tablespoons of hemp seeds deliver close to 10 grams of protein. And unlike most plants on this list, that protein doesn't need a partner food to be complete. Hemp seeds provide all 9 essential amino acids, putting them in a small club that can stand next to eggs and meat on that metric alone. Gram for gram, hemp seeds beat chicken breast outright. 30 grams of hemp seeds, 9.5 grams of protein. The same 30 grams of chicken breast, 5.4 grams. Read that again: a spoonful of seeds outproteins the same weight of chicken. Hemp seeds carry just as much protein per gram as beef, the food most people associate with muscle building, and the food most people sprinkle on a smoothie bowl, pound for pound, Tide. And it's not diluted by carbs the way beans and lentils are. That protein comes wrapped in a healthy fat profile rich in omega-3 and omega-6, the kind nutritionists write entire books about for heart and brain health. The completeness isn't a fluke. All 9 essential amino acids: histidine, isoleucine, leucine, lysine, methionine, phenylalanine, threonine, tryptophan, valine, the full set your body can't make on its own. Hemp's amino acid profile is comparable to soy and egg whites, 2 gold standard reference proteins nutritionists use to grade completeness. Extraordinarily rare for anything that grows out of the ground. There's a mineral story too. 3 tablespoons carry about 360 milligrams of potassium, twice a comparable serving of spinach or oranges. Add magnesium, iron, zinc, vitamin E, and you've got a seed doing the job of a multivitamin and a protein shake at once. Sprinkle it on oatmeal doesn't even change the flavor. And the same protein as eggs line isn't a hook exaggeration, it's close to literal. 3 tablespoons of hemp seeds match the complete protein in 2 eggs, no shell, no yolk, no cracking required. One caveat: hemp seeds are calorie-dense and high in fiber, especially unshelled. Load up all at once and you risk stomach upset, gas, diarrhea. Start with a tablespoon, work up from there. Sprinkle them on anything and you've quietly outproteined half the protein bars on the shelf. 7 black soybeans. Here's where it gets interesting. Most people know regular soybeans. Almost nobody knows black soybeans, a nutrient-dense variation of the same plant, packing an elite protein content. Research on colored soybean genotypes found protein ranging from 38.9% to 43.3% of dry weight across black, brown, and green varieties. That puts black soybeans in a range that edges out or matches most cuts of beef, gram for gram, no hormones, no feedlot. But protein percentage is only half the story. Anthocyanins, the same antioxidant pigment behind blueberries and blackberries, were found only in black soybeans. Not brown, not green. Finding them concentrated in a legume at levels that rival some fruits is genuinely unusual in the plant kingdom. Black soybeans are also a complete protein, all 9 essential amino acids. No grain pairing needed to round out the profile, same rare category as hemp seeds and soy nuts. The mineral profile backs it up: iron, calcium, magnesium, folate, potassium, bone strength, muscle function, energy production. And unlike most legumes, black soybeans run lower in carbs than regular soybeans. High protein, low carb, high antioxidants, a combination almost no whole plant food can claim at once. There's history here too. Known as seoriti in Korean cooking, black soybeans have been a staple in East Asian diets for centuries, reached for specifically during recovery periods and postpartum diets, long before anyone ran a lab analysis on anthocyanin content. Modern nutrition science just handed them the receipts. One caveat: like all soy products, anyone with a soy allergy should avoid black soybeans entirely, same restriction as tofu, tempeh, and edamame. Soybeans already deliver close to double the protein of beef. Black soybeans take that same base and add a denser antioxidant profile most home cooks have never tasted. 6. Wolffia. Look at your screen, those tiny green dots floating on water, that's it, that's the whole plant. Wolffia, also called watermeal, a rootless, free-floating duckweed, the smallest flowering plant on record, and gram for gram, it's a nutritional heavyweight now being taken seriously by governments, food scientists, and space agencies. Not as a novelty, as a real candidate for solving a protein shortage that hasn't even peaked yet. Here's the number that should stop you. Wolffia's protein content runs 36 to 40% of dry weight. Compare that to 34% for soybeans, 28% for broccoli. This isn't a plant catching up to meat, it's a plant that outproteins the plants we already call protein kings. Under optimal growing conditions, some strains have hit over 41%. Certain strains, studied under controlled conditions, have topped 45%. It's not just the percentage, it's the quality. Wolffia's amino acid ratio matches egg protein, the reference standard nutrition science has used for decades to define complete. A pond plant matching that ratio is not a small claim. And the cost to the planet is almost nothing. Wolffia uses 1/230 the water and 1/63 the land that soybeans need. It can double its biomass daily. Soybeans yield once a year. Cattle need acres of pasture per animal. This isn't an incremental improvement, it's a different category of food production. Here's the detail that should really surprise you. Wolffia appears to be the only known plant-based source of non-animal vitamin B12, a nutrient almost every plant-based eater is told they can't get without supplements. Peer-reviewed research on a cultivated strain, sometimes marketed as mankai, confirmed it. Participants who ate it regularly showed serum B12 levels rising more than after other protein source meals. The likely mechanism, a natural symbiosis with B12-producing bacteria living inside the plant itself. Almost no other edible plant on Earth does that. In Thailand, it's called kai pam, water eggs, not a lab invention. It's been part of Southeast Asian diets for generations, harvested straight from ponds and rice paddies long before anyone understood why it kept people fed through lean seasons. Now companies in Japan and researchers studying food security are building cultivation systems around it, because nothing else on this list combines fast growth, minimal land and water use, complete protein, and a B12 profile that no other plant here can match. 5. Lupin Beans. If Wolffia is the food of the future, lupin beans are the food of the past that never should have been forgotten. Roman soldiers carried them on long marches, dense, dry storable, kept fighting men fueled for hours without spoiling in a pack. The numbers explain why. A 100-gram serving of raw lupin seeds contains 36.2 grams of protein. Some varieties run even higher. Australian sweet lupin, responsible for around 80% of global commercial lupin production, packs 40% protein, 38% fiber, and just 4% digestible carbs. A macro profile almost engineered for muscle maintenance without the carb load of most legumes. High protein, high fiber, almost no digestible starch, genuinely rare in the plant world. It's why lupin keeps getting compared to whey and pea protein powder, not other beans. What makes lupin rare beyond the numbers? Completeness. All 9 essential amino acids on its own, no pairing required. Pea and rice protein powders get blended together specifically to cover each other's gaps. Lupin doesn't need the help. Most plants are missing methionine or lysine. Lupin covers the full set. The fiber story outperforms almost every other bean here too. 37 grams of fiber per 100 grams, virtually no starch, a low glycemic load that helps maintain blood sugar. Most of what looks like carbohydrate on a lupin label is actually fiber. That's why lupin has become popular in keto and low-carb circles, despite technically being a legume. The micronutrients back up the reputation. 89% of daily folate, 47% magnesium, 24% iron, 113% copper, minerals tied directly to red blood cell production, energy metabolism, tissue repair. Few legumes stack that many high numbers on top of an already elite protein count. One real caveat, wild lupin varieties contain bitter alkaloids that are toxic in quantity. That's why cultivated sweet low-alkaloid varieties are grown under strict quarantine away from the wild type. Commercial sweet lupin, sold in jars or as flour, has been bred to remove that risk. But like fava beans or raw kidney beans, this is a legume with a genuine wild-type hazard behind its modern, food-safe form. Roman soldiers didn't have a nutrition label, they just knew a handful of these kept them marching. The label just confirms they were right. 4. Soy nuts. This one sounds like a snackable afterthought, it isn't. Roasted soybeans sold as soy nuts pack an elite protein density. A 100-gram serving delivers 35.22 grams of protein. The dry-roasted version goes even higher, 39.58 grams per 100 grams. Let that sit. A bag of roasted beans out-proteins chicken breast, which lands around 31 grams per 100 grams. It beats ground beef by an even wider margin. A snack aisle bean, beating two of the most common protein sources in the American diet, gram for gram. And just like lupin, it's a complete protein on its own. All 9 essential amino acids, the same trait that puts soy protein powder in direct competition with whey in sports nutrition. That's why soy gets compared to chicken and beef specifically, not other beans. It's playing in the same category on amino acid quality, not just quantity. The fiber number deserves its own spotlight, because it's what meat can't touch at any price. That same 100-gram serving carries 17.7 grams of fiber, 63% of your daily value in a snack-sized portion, plus 31% of daily potassium, 22% of daily iron. No cut of chicken or beef brings fiber to the table at all. Complete protein plus a massive fiber load. That's why soy nuts show up so often in satiety research. They fill you up on 2 fronts, not one. The catch is consistency. Soy nuts are shelf-stable, portable, zero prep required, which sounds like a pure advantage until you realize that's also why they end up forgotten in a pantry. The best protein source is the one you'll actually eat. Lentils and chickpeas force themselves into a meal because they need cooking. Soy nuts are easy to buy with good intentions and easy to forget entirely. One trade-off: 45% of soy nuts calories come from fat versus 28% from protein. Not a bad thing, it's mostly unsaturated fat, but it makes them considerably more calorie-dense than a plain cooked bean like lentils. A handful goes a long way in protein and in calories. A bag of beans, roasted and salted, sitting next to the potato chips, quietly out-proteining the meat aisle the whole time. 3. Tempeh. Tempeh isn't soybeans, it's soybeans transformed. Cook whole soybeans, inoculate them with a mold, Rhizopus oligosporus, wait 1 to 2 days. The mold binds the beans into a firm block. The result doesn't act like a bean anymore, it acts like meat. It sears, it browns, it holds a crust in a hot pan like ground beef. Almost no other plant protein does that straight out of the package. Here's the number that matters: 19 grams of protein per 100 grams. That's 35% of your daily protein RDA, plus 178 calories and 8.5 grams of fiber. Fiber ground beef, chicken, and every animal protein simply don't have. But protein quantity is half the story. Fermentation changes protein quality. It breaks down compounds that block digestion. It cuts antinutrients like trypsin inhibitors. It breaks down phytic acid, improving mineral absorption by roughly 50% over unfermented soy. Why does that matter? Raw soybeans lock their nutrients behind phytic acid, a compound that grabs iron, zinc, and calcium and stops your body from absorbing them. Fermentation is a centuries-old workaround. Indonesian cooks solved bioavailability before the word existed. Now the comparison that matters: tofu vs tempeh. 3.5 ounces of tofu, 17 grams of protein, same weight in tempeh, more ounce for ounce. Tempeh wins. There's a gut health layer too. Fermentation loads tempeh with probiotics, bacteria that support gut health, immunity, inflammation control. Chicken breast can't touch that. One catch: most commercial tempeh is pasteurized. That kills the live cultures. Want the probiotic benefit? Look for unpasteurized or raw on the label. Bottom line, tempeh isn't a high-protein food. It's a 3,000-year-old process that beat modern food science to the punch, unlocking more usable protein and more absorbable minerals from one simple bean just by changing how it's made. 2. Moringa. Before one, a tree that's been called the tree of life for thousands of years. For once, the nickname isn't marketing, it's biology. Dried moringa leaves contain 25 to 30% protein by weight, all 9 essential amino acids, a complete plant protein. A typical 100-gram serving of dried moringa powder delivers 25 to 30 grams of protein, and it's not sitting alone. Most leafy greens, spinach, kale, are barely protein sources at all. Moringa is the exception by a wide margin. Here's what should catch your attention. At roughly 27 grams of protein per 100 grams, moringa is one of the few plant foods classified as a near-complete protein source, confirmed by FAO research. Spinach comes in at just 2.9 grams per 100 grams, roughly a 9-fold difference gram for gram. Even fresh moringa leaves before drying concentrates anything carry meaningfully more protein than fresh spinach, a vegetable most people already think of as a protein source when it's really more fiber and micronutrient wearing a protein reputation it hasn't quite earned. This isn't a wellness brand trend. Moringa's been used across Africa and South Asia for generations, earned the hard way, in populations who couldn't afford to guess wrong about nutrition. Field research on fighting malnutrition keeps landing on the same conclusion. Moringa leaf powder supports nursing women and infants specifically where access to meat and dairy is limited. Protein, iron, and calcium in a shelf-stable leaf that needs no refrigeration, no livestock. The micronutrients back up why traditional healers reached for it first. Moringa exceeds oranges in vitamin C, beats dairy in calcium, and beats spinach in iron, outperforming the exact foods people are told to eat for those nutrients. Arginine and histidine, both present in moringa, are especially critical for infants who can't yet synthesize enough protein on their own, which is exactly why moringa shows up so consistently in maternal and child nutrition programs across the global south. Not a trend, a practical intervention. 2 plants in a row now where ancient use came first, and modern science just caught up lupin with the Romans, moringa across Africa and South Asia. Keep that pattern in mind. It's about to happen one more time with the single most protein-dense food on this list. 1. Spirulina. This is it, the plant most people have walked past in a health food store 100 times without knowing what it actually is. At 60 to 70% protein by dry weight, spirulina beats beef 26%, chicken 27%, eggs 13%, fish 22%, and soybeans 36%. More protein per gram than any other commonly consumed whole food. Read that again. Every animal protein most people build their diet around sitting well below a blue-green algae most people have never cooked with. This isn't a niche claim. It's why NASA studied spirulina for long-duration space missions. It's why the United Nations called it the best food for the future. 2 organizations that plan for humanity's survival under extreme constraints, feeding astronauts millions of miles from a grocery store, feeding a planet racing toward resource scarcity, landing on the same food. That's not a coincidence, that's data. And just like moringa, lupin, and soy nuts, spirulina doesn't need a partner food. All 9 essential amino acids, complete on its own. Algae doesn't sound like it should outperform a ribeye. But completeness isn't the only surprise. Absorption is too. 85 to 95% absorption rate, higher than most plant proteins, higher than most animal proteins. Spirulina's protein density runs roughly 2 to 3 times higher than most meats by weight. This isn't new either. The Aztecs harvested spirulina from Lake Texcoco centuries before anyone had a microscope to explain why it kept them strong. Spirulina itself is one of the oldest life forms on the planet, a cyanobacterium that predates most complex life by billions of years. And it may be one of the most important foods of the next 50 years, for reasons that have nothing to do with tradition and everything to do with math. As global demand for meat outpaces what land and water can sustainably produce, researchers keep landing on the same candidates: dense, fast-growing, low-impact organisms that grow almost anywhere water and sunlight exist. Spirulina grows in tanks, not farmland, no soil, no decades of selective breeding. It thrives in alkaline lakes under intense sun, conditions most crops can't tolerate at all. Here's the honest fine print. Most people don't eat 100 grams of spirulina a day. Typical servings run 3 to 10 grams, a meaningful but modest few grams of usable protein, not a steak replacement on its own. The 60 to 70% figure is real, but it's a concentration number, not a serving size promise. Spirulina earns one on density and completeness, not volume. Ancient wisdom, modern science, same conclusion thousands of years apart. Here's the part most videos skip, and it's the part that actually matters. How you prepare these plants determines how much of that protein your body actually absorbs. Soak and cook your legumes properly. Lentils, chickpeas, and lupin beans all contain antinutrients, compounds that block mineral absorption unless the beans are soaked and fully cooked. Skip the soak, you're leaving nutrition on the table. Ferment when you can. That's the secret behind tempeh. Fermentation breaks down those same antinutrients and makes the protein more bioavailable than eating plain soybeans. Humans figured this out through trial and error, long before anyone understood the chemistry. Don't cook your spirulina or moringa, add them after. Spirulina's protein starts to denature above 67 degrees C, so both are typically stirred into smoothies, water, or finished dishes, which preserves their delicate proteins, vitamins, and pigments. Roast your soy nuts and hemp seeds fresh. Store them properly. Both go stale fast, and stale ingredients are ingredients that stay in the pantry instead of getting eaten. That last point matters more than any stat in this video. The best protein source is the one you'll actually eat. A high-protein food sitting unused in your cupboard does nothing for you. These plants only work if they make it onto your plate. 10 plants, some ancient, some barely known outside a lab, all proof that plants can't compete with meat on protein was never true. It was just a belief nobody had checked. If this surprised you, hit like, subscribe if you want more of these. And tell me in the comments, which one of these 10 are you trying first?